I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Right now, while you rest, your brain is quietly running one of the most elaborate biological programs in the known universe. And something inside it is gently asking a question it asks every night. You'll discover why sleep sometimes refuses to come, and understand what your body has been trying to tell you all along. Welcome to Sleep Science Documentary. Wherever you are right now, perhaps lying in the quiet dark, feeling the weight of the days still resting on your shoulders, allow yourself this moment of stillness. We'll journey through 100 psychology facts about sleep and the searching mind. From the ancient chemical systems that call you toward rest, to the hidden reasons the mind resists, to the gentle path that leads you home. This thoughtful journey through sleep science builds bridges between searching minds. A gentle subscribe, like, or sharing your thoughts creates a pathway for more tired souls to discover this peaceful space, and brings us closer to protect it, one sleepy soul at a time. Your presence here matters more than you know. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You don't need to solve anything tonight. You don't need to understand every word. Sense that soothing heaviness beginning to gather, like your thoughts are slowly dimming their brightness, dissolving into the soft, welcoming fog of approaching sleep. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're resting where the mind's deepest questions meet the quiet of the night. Let your thoughts soften with the rhythm of your breath. And now we begin. Sleep is not one thing. It is many. When scientists first began studying sleep in earnest, they assumed it was simply a period of rest, the body switching off, like a lamp dimmed for the night. But that picture turned out to be beautifully wrong. Sleep is not a single state, but a complex architecture, cycling through distinct phases every 90 minutes or so. There is light sleep, where the mind drifts at the edges. There is deep, slow-wave sleep, where the body repairs and restores. And there is REM sleep, rapid eye movement, where the sleeping brain becomes almost as electrically active as it is during waking. All through the night, you move through these chambers, each one serving a different purpose, each one essential. You are not simply resting, you are working, in ways the waking mind will never fully know. The average human being spends roughly 1/3 of their entire life asleep. If you live to 80 years old, that is more than 26 years spent in the quiet country of sleep. And yet, for much of human history, we understood almost nothing about what actually happens during those hours. The scientific study of sleep only truly began in the 1950s, when researchers discovered REM sleep and realized that the brain during sleep was doing something remarkable, something active, something necessary. Before that, sleep was largely considered a passive absence of wakefulness. Now we know it is one of the most biologically complex states the body ever enters. 26 years is a long time to have spent somewhere we barely understood. And perhaps that mystery is part of why it sometimes feels so elusive. There is a molecule in your brain right now that makes you want to sleep, and it has been building all day. It is called adenosine. From the moment you wake up each morning, your neurons begin releasing this chemical as a natural byproduct of all their activity. As the hours pass, adenosine accumulates in your brain, gradually, steadily, like water rising in a quiet vessel. The more adenosine that builds up, the stronger the pull towards sleep becomes. Scientists call this sleep pressure, and it is one of the most ancient biological signals known to exist in mammals. When you feel that heavy, soft tiredness in the late evening, that is adenosine doing exactly what it is meant to do. A new sensor called HIP-NO-S, developed in 2025 and described in Nature Communications, can now measure adenosine changes in the living brain in real time, giving researchers a window into this quiet chemical tide for the very first time. Caffeine does not actually give you energy. It borrows it. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain, essentially plugging the doorbell so the signal of tiredness cannot ring through. You don't feel less tired because you have more energy. You feel less tired because the message telling you that you are tired has been temporarily silenced. But adenosine keeps building in the background, patiently waiting. When the caffeine wears off, 3 to 5 hours later for most people, all of that accumulated sleepiness comes rushing back at once. This is the familiar late afternoon softening. Understanding this helps explain something many people experience, but cannot quite name: the feeling of being exhausted and yet unable to sleep. The signal was there all along. Something was blocking it. Deep inside your brain, a paired cluster of neurons, just above the point where your optic nerves cross, serves as your body's master clock. Each cluster contains roughly 10,000 neurons, an almost impossibly small number to govern the rhythms of an entire life. Together, they form a structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, sitting within the hypothalamus near the center of your brain. This tiny structure receives information about light and darkness directly from your eyes, even on cloudy days, even through closed eyelids. When light enters your eyes in the morning, the suprachiasmatic nucleus sends a signal: time to be awake. As darkness falls in the evening, it prepares the body for rest. Every cell in your body has its own internal clock too, but the suprachiasmatic nucleus is the conductor of the entire orchestra, keeping every rhythm synchronized to the turning of the day. Light is the most powerful signal your brain uses to set its internal clock. Not food, not exercise, not social schedules. Light. Specifically, short wavelength blue light, the kind that fills the sky on a bright morning, powerfully suppresses the release of a hormone called melatonin, while signaling the master clock to stay in its waking mode. In the evening, as natural light fades and shifts toward warmer wavelengths, melatonin begins to rise and the body prepares for sleep. The problem is that the screens we carry everywhere, phones, tablets, laptops, televisions, emit significant amounts of blue spectrum light. When used in the hours before bed, they can delay the rise of melatonin by 1 to 3 hours, essentially telling your brain that the sun has not yet set. Your eyes do not know the difference between a screen and the sky. They only know the light. Melatonin is often misunderstood. Many people think of it as a sleep hormone, something that directly causes sleep, like a gentle sedative. But melatonin is better understood as a darkness hormone. Its role is not so much to produce sleep as to signal the timing of it. When melatonin rises in the evening, it tells your brain and body, Darkness is here. The time for sleep is drawing near. It opens a door. The actual transition into sleep still depends on a complex interplay of adenosine, body temperature, and the quieting of the brain's arousal systems. Melatonin simply sets the conditions. This is why supplemental melatonin can be helpful for adjusting sleep timing, such as with jet lag, but is less reliable as a solution for the kind of sleeplessness that comes from anxiety or stress. Those have deeper roots. Your body temperature must fall for you to fall asleep. In the hours before sleep, your core body temperature drops by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. This cooling is not incidental. It is an active part of the biological preparation for sleep, orchestrated by the same brain systems that regulate your circadian rhythm. Blood moves toward the surface of the skin, releasing heat into the air. Your hands and feet become warmer as your core cools. This is why lying in a room that is too warm makes sleep feel distant and uncomfortable. The body cannot complete the necessary cooling. And it is why a warm bath taken an hour before bed can paradoxically help sleep come more easily. The body absorbs heat during the bath and then releases it rapidly upon emerging, accelerating the natural cooling process. The body knows exactly what it is doing. Sometimes we simply need to get out of its way. Insomnia is now one of the most studied conditions in all of medicine. In 2014, about 1,500 scientific papers were published on insomnia in a single year. By 2024, that number had grown to more than 3,650, an increase of 142% in a decade, reflecting a quiet but sustained expansion in scientific attention that few medical topics have seen in recent years. Researchers now recognize that chronic insomnia affects roughly 1 in 10 adults worldwide, and that it is not simply a symptom of something else. It is a condition in its own right, with its own biological mechanisms, its own neural signatures, and its own effective treatments. The fact that science has turned such patient attention towards sleeplessness speaks to something important. The human experience of lying awake in the dark, mind occupied, body tired, is not a personal failing. It is a medical reality that touches hundreds of millions of lives. So why do we struggle to sleep? The answer, we are learning, is not simple. But at its heart, insomnia is now understood to be a disorder of hyperarousal, a condition in which the brain and nervous system remain too active, too alert, when they should be softening into rest. Researchers call this the hyperarousal model of insomnia. People who struggle with sleep consistently show elevated levels of activity in brain regions associated with alertness and self-monitoring, even during sleep itself. Their hearts beat a little faster. Their body temperatures run a little higher. Their levels of stress hormones remain elevated when they should be falling. This is not a character flaw. It is not weakness or imagination. It is the biology of a nervous system that has learned, somewhere along the way, to keep the lights on, when the darkness and the rest it brings would serve it so much better. The stress hormone cortisol follows a precise daily arc, and when that arc is undisturbed, sleep arrives naturally. In a well-rested person, cortisol reaches its lowest point around midnight, allowing the body to deepen into rest. Then, between 4 and 6 in the morning, it begins to climb. By 30 to 45 minutes after waking, it surges, a phenomenon called the cortisol awakening response, providing natural morning energy without the need for caffeine. This beautiful rhythm, driven by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, is the biological architecture of a good night and an alert morning. Meanwhile, in the evening, cortisol's natural decline allows melatonin to rise freely. When this rhythm is disrupted by chronic stress, by irregular schedules, by long exposure to artificial light, the consequences ripple outward across the entire night. Chronic stress can physically prevent the cortisol curve from descending at night. When the body experiences ongoing psychological stress, the kind that does not come from a single threat, but from an unrelenting accumulation of pressures, it sustains elevated activity in the HPA axis, the hormonal network connecting the brain's hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal glands. This network evolved to mobilize the body rapidly in moments of danger. Under chronic stress, it runs in a low-level state of continuous activation. Cortisol levels remain elevated in the evenings. The nervous system stays watchful. Melatonin is suppressed. The body hovers at the edge of sleep but cannot quite tip over into it. Lying awake at night is not always about what is happening in the dark. Often, it is about what has been happening all day. There is a name for the particular kind of sleeplessness that comes from a racing, worrying mind. Researchers call it cognitive hyperarousal, and it is one of the most common features of chronic insomnia. It is the experience of getting into bed and finding your mind suddenly busier than it has been all day. Thoughts about tomorrow, about yesterday, about things that were said, about things that might happen. The quietness of the room, which should invite rest, instead amplifies every mental whisper. Studies using brain imaging have shown that during this kind of sleeplessness, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-referential thinking, remains unusually active. The brain is not merely awake. It is watching itself be awake, commenting on its own wakefulness, and in doing so, making sleep feel a little further away with each passing moment. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes more sensitive when we are tired, after even a single night of poor sleep. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in the brain that processes threat and emotional intensity, becomes measurably more reactive. It fires more readily. It interprets neutral stimuli as threatening. It amplifies emotional responses in ways that feel real and urgent, but that are, in part, the product of an exhausted nervous system reading the world through a distorted lens. This creates a feedback loop that researchers have identified in chronic insomnia. Poor sleep increases emotional reactivity, which increases anxiety about sleep itself, which further disrupts sleep, which further sensitizes the amygdala. Gently, quietly, night after night, the cycle continues. But because it is learned, it can also be unlearned. Your brain's emotional processing shifts dramatically during the different stages of sleep. During NREM sleep, the deep, slow stages, the brain consolidates factual memories, transferring information from the hippocampus into long-term storage. But it is during REM sleep, the dreaming stage, that emotional memories are processed and recalibrated. During REM sleep, the brain replays emotional experiences, but in a neurochemical environment unusually low in norepinephrine, the stress-related neurotransmitter. This creates a kind of safe rehearsal space in which difficult experiences can be revisited without the full physiological weight of distress. Sleep researchers have described this as a form of overnight emotional processing. When REM sleep is disrupted, as it often is in people with insomnia or anxiety, this processing is incomplete. The ache of yesterday carries, unresolved, into today. The sleeping brain cycles through roughly 4 to 6 complete sleep cycles per night. Each cycle lasts approximately 90 minutes and moves through the stages in a particular order: light sleep, deep sleep, and then REM. But the proportion of each stage changes across the night. The first half of the night is dominated by deep, slow-wave sleep, the most physically restorative phase, during which growth hormone is released. Cellular repair happens, and the immune system is strengthened. The second half of the night brings more REM sleep, longer, richer dream periods that do the emotional and cognitive work. This is why the hours between 3 and 6 in the morning, when REM is most abundant, are so meaningful. Cutting sleep short by even 1 hour significantly reduces total REM time, not by a small amount, but by a disproportionately large one. Slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage, is when the brain's internal cleaning system is most active. Discovered only in 2012 and named the glymphatic system. This network of channels surrounding the blood vessels of the brain activates primarily during deep sleep. As the body descends into slow-wave sleep, the spaces between brain cells expand, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flow through the tissue, carrying away the metabolic waste products that neurons produce during their activity. Among the waste products supported by this process are amyloid beta and tau, proteins whose accumulation is linked to Alzheimer's disease. In a 2025 study published in Nature Communications, researchers confirmed, for the first time directly in humans, that sleep supports the overnight clearance of these proteins into the bloodstream. The exact mechanisms are still being refined by science, but the link between deep sleep and brain maintenance is now well established. The night is not lost time. It is the custodian's quiet shift. The mechanism that drives the brain's cleaning system during sleep was only recently revealed. In early 2025, a landmark study published in the journal Cell identified the specific driver of glymphatic clearance during sleep. It is not simply the slowing of brain activity. It is a precise, oscillating signal from a brain region called the locus coeruleus, which releases norepinephrine in slow rhythmic pulses during NREM sleep. These pulses cause the brain's blood vessels to gently contract and relax in synchrony, a process called vasomotion, which acts like a gentle pump, moving cerebrospinal fluid through the tissue. The rhythm of sleeping blood vessels, pulsing softly in the dark, cleaning as they go. There is something quietly profound in that image. The body, in its deepest rest, performing its most meticulous maintenance. A large Mayo Clinic study, published in late 2025, found that chronic insomnia may be associated with accelerated brain aging. People with long-term sleep troubles were 40% more likely to develop dementia or measurable cognitive impairment. And brain scans showed structural changes consistent with accelerated aging in some regions. The finding joined a growing body of evidence linking sleep quality to long-term brain health, reinforcing the connection between the glymphatic system and neurodegenerative disease. Importantly, researchers remind us that understanding this connection is an invitation toward gentler habits, not a source of worry. It is a reason for all of us to take the quiet hours of the night seriously, to treat them as something worth tending, something worth protecting, with the same care we might offer any living thing we value. Your sleep architecture changes profoundly across the human lifespan. A newborn infant spends nearly 50% of sleep in REM, a proportion so high that researchers believe it reflects the extraordinary demands of rapid brain development in early life. By early adulthood, REM makes up about 20 to 25% of total sleep. In older adults, the proportion of deep, slow-wave sleep naturally decreases, and sleep becomes more fragmented, lighter, more interruptible. These changes are not signs of something going wrong. They are part of the biological aging process. However, the reduction in deep sleep that comes with age also reduces glymphatic clearing efficiency, which may partly explain why age is among the strongest risk factors for neurodegenerative conditions. Sleep changes as we age, and our relationship with it must change too, with more gentleness, more accommodation, more willingness to rest in the forms sleep takes rather than the forms we expect it to. There are two separate systems that together determine when and how deeply you sleep. The first is the circadian system, your internal 24-hour clock, driven by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that determines the timing of sleep. The second is the homeostatic system, the adenosine-driven sleep pressure that builds throughout the day based on how long you have been awake. When these two systems work in harmony, when sleep pressure is high, at the same time that the circadian clock is calling for sleep, falling asleep feels natural and effortless. When they fall out of sync, when someone tries to sleep at the wrong time for their biological clock, or when anxiety has blunted the sleep pressure signal, the experience of lying awake, willing sleep to come and finding it absent, begins. Insomnia, in many cases, is a problem of timing as much as a problem of the night itself. Social jet lag, the mismatch between your biological clock and your social schedule, affects the majority of people living in industrialized societies. Researchers define social jet lag as the difference between when your body naturally wants to sleep and when your life schedule actually allows you to sleep. Studies suggest that the average person in a modern society experiences roughly 1 to 2 hours of social jet lag on work days, equivalent to crossing 1 or 2 time zones every Monday morning. The body clock, driven by light exposure and genetics, wants one schedule. Work, school, and social obligations demand another. This chronic, low-level misalignment keeps the biological systems that regulate sleep slightly off-center, enough to make sleep harder to find, mornings more difficult to face, and fatigue a familiar companion rather than the exception. Genetics plays a meaningful role in whether you are a morning person or an evening person. The terms chronotype, early bird or night owl, are not merely preferences or habits. They reflect genuine differences in the timing of the biological clock, shaped partly by genetic variants in the genes that control circadian rhythm. Large-scale genetic studies have identified many dozens of locations across the genome associated with chronotype. Evening chronotypes, people whose clocks naturally run later, often find themselves in a particularly difficult position in a world that runs on early schedules. Their bodies are genuinely not ready for sleep at the times society expects, and genuinely not ready for waking at the times jobs and schools demand. This is not laziness or poor discipline. It is biology. And understanding that can be the beginning of a small, quiet self-compassion. The way we think about sleep, the beliefs we carry about it, has a measurable effect on the quality of sleep we get. Researchers have identified a cluster of thought patterns that quietly perpetuate insomnia. Beliefs like, "I must get 8 hours, or tomorrow will be ruined. I will never be able to sleep naturally again. My body is broken when it comes to sleep." These thoughts, however understandable they are, activate the very arousal systems that prevent sleep. When the mind declares the night a problem to be solved, the nervous system responds as it would to any declared problem, with alertness, with readiness, with vigilance. The body and the mind cannot solve their way into rest. They can only release their way there. That distinction, quiet as it is, can change everything. There is something researchers call orthosomnia, and it describes a growing modern difficulty. As sleep tracking devices have become widespread, a new pattern has emerged. Some people who use wearables or apps to monitor their sleep develop anxiety about the data they collect. They wake in the morning, consult their sleep scores, and feel distressed if the numbers do not match their expectations, even if they feel reasonably rested. The effort to optimize sleep becomes its own source of sleep disruption. The Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine identified orthosomnia as a concern in 2024. It is perhaps the most modern form of a very old difficulty. The attentive mind turning its focus towards sleep and, in doing so, making it harder to find. We want so deeply to rest well, and sometimes the wanting itself stands gently in the way. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, appreciate each tiny cell inside. Trillions of quiet processes working in silence. Heart beating, lungs breathing, brain thinking, all without your command. Notice the gentle weight of your limbs now, the soft pressure of where you rest against the bed. Your body is not struggling tonight. Your body knows how to rest. It has been doing this your entire life. You are a complete system, perfectly arranged for exactly this. Now we continue. The quality of your sleep the night before affects how you perceive stress the next day, and the quality of your sleep the next night. This relationship, confirmed across many studies, means that sleep and stress do not simply interact. They amplify each other. Poor sleep increases cortisol reactivity and emotional sensitivity the following day. Heightened emotional sensitivity makes difficulties feel larger. Larger felt difficulties make it harder to calm the nervous system before bed. And a nervous system that cannot settle before bed produces poor sleep. Researchers sometimes call this the anxiety-insomnia loop. It is not a cycle of personal failure. It is a physiological feedback system. And knowing it exists seeing it clearly, without judgment, is the first quiet step towards stepping gently out of it. REM, sleep and emotional memory processing, share a deep connection that researchers are only beginning to understand. During REM sleep, the brain's prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational judgment and emotional regulation, maintains connections with the amygdala in a way that appears to reduce the emotional charge of memories. Over the course of a night with sufficient REM, an experience that felt sharp and distressing may feel somewhat more manageable by morning. This is not forgetting. It is reprocessing. Research suggests that people who sleep poorly, and particularly those whose REM sleep is fragmented, carry the full emotional weight of difficult experiences across more days and nights, without the gentle metabolic softening that sleep provides. The night does quiet work, and it does it without asking anything of us except the willingness to rest. Sleep and the immune system are intimately connected. During the deep, slow-wave stages of sleep, the immune system enters a period of heightened activity. Cytokines, proteins that regulate immune responses, are produced in greater quantities. Certain immune cells, called T cells, strengthen their capacity to identify and respond to infected cells. Studies have shown that people who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night are significantly more susceptible to the common cold. Conversely, fever itself triggers a biological drive for increased sleep, as the immune system actively recruits extra sleep time to conduct its work. The body understands something we sometimes forget. Illness calls for rest, not simply because rest feels better, but because rest is part of the mechanism by which the body heals. Sleep is not recovery from life. It is part of what makes life sustainable. There is a state between wakefulness and sleep that many people who struggle to rest know intimately, though it has rarely been named. Scientists call it hypnagogia, the liminal threshold where sensory awareness loosens, where thoughts begin to detach from logical sequence, where brief, vivid images or sounds sometimes arise without warning. For most people, this state passes quickly into deeper sleep. But for people with heightened arousal, the nervous system can repeatedly pull back from this threshold, lurching back into full awareness just as sleep seems to begin, as though an internal sentinel keeps standing watch. This experience, sometimes described as not being able to let go, is physiologically real. The brain's arousal systems remain on guard, vigilant for threats that are not there. Gently reassuring the nervous system that the night is safe is, in some ways, the quiet work of every sleep practice. The temperature of the room where you sleep matters more than most people realize. The optimal bedroom temperature for most adults is between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. At this range, the body can complete its natural pre-sleep thermal descent, the 2-degree drop in core temperature that signals the nervous system to deepen into sleep. A room that is too warm prevents this cooling. A room that is too cool can disrupt sleep by triggering the body's own heat conservation responses. This narrow window of comfortable coolness is not arbitrary. It mirrors the conditions under which our evolutionary ancestors would have slept outdoors. In the naturally cooler temperatures of the night, the body remembers something older than houses. It seeks the cool dark as a kind of homecoming. The human circadian clock runs on a cycle just slightly longer than 24 hours. Approximately 24 hours and 11 minutes. on average. This was established in landmark research from Harvard University, published in 1999, which found the circadian pacemaker's intrinsic period to be remarkably stable and precise, far narrower in variation than earlier studies had suggested. This small drift, barely a quarter of an hour, means that without daily light cues, the body clock would slowly slide toward later and later sleep and wake times with each passing day. The daily light-dark cycle anchors it, resetting it each morning to align with the rotation of the Earth. When that consistency is broken, through irregular schedules, shift work, or travel across time zones, the clock drifts. The body is not being difficult. It is looking for the light that tells it where it is in time. Shift work, working night shifts or rotating schedules, is one of the most powerful disruptors of the human sleep system. A 2025 study published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences found that night shift work profoundly alters the natural cortisol rhythm, disrupting the HPA axis and contributing to metabolic conditions, cardiovascular changes, and impaired cognitive function over time. Shift workers consistently show disrupted patterns in both melatonin and cortisol production. Their bodies are repeatedly asked to be awake when biology says sleep, and to sleep when biology says be alert. Over months and years, this misalignment accumulates into a measurable biological toll. The research does not offer easy solutions for the millions of people whose work requires these schedules. But it acknowledges something important. The fatigue and difficulty these workers experience is the predictable response of a biological system asked to work against its own natural rhythms. Day after day, loneliness has recently been identified as a meaningful factor in poor sleep quality. In some studies, a stronger one than screen time. A study published in late 2024 found that among college students, feelings of loneliness were more strongly associated with insomnia than time spent on screens or devices. The finding aligns with evolutionary theories of sleep. Researchers have proposed that the human nervous system evolved to monitor for social safety cues before allowing itself to relax deeply. In ancestral environments, being alone meant being unprotected, a vulnerability that warranted vigilance. The sleeping brain may still carry traces of this ancient social awareness. Feeling connected, safe, and held within a community of care may be one of the oldest and most fundamental conditions for rest. Some of what keeps us awake at night is not about the night at all. The brain does not simply store memories during sleep. It reorganizes them. During slow-wave sleep, the hippocampus, the brain's short-term memory hub, replays the experiences of the day, transferring patterns of neural activation to the cortex for long-term storage. But more than that, the sleeping brain identifies connections between experiences that were not consciously recognized during waking. It links disparate pieces of information, finds patterns, and can sometimes produce insights. The familiar sense of clarity that follows a good night's sleep on a difficult problem. The morning perspective that sometimes follows a long day is not simply the product of rest. It is the product of a night's worth of invisible work, performed without any effort on our part. In the quiet hours, we sometimes resist. There is a phenomenon called sleep inertia, the grogginess felt immediately upon waking, and it is a genuine neurological state, not merely drowsiness. When you wake, the brain does not immediately shift to full alertness for anywhere from 1 minute to 60 minutes, depending on the individual and the sleep stage from which waking occurs. Certain regions of the prefrontal cortex remain in a sleep-like state. Cognitive performance during this window, reaction time, decision-making, memory recall can be measurably reduced. Waking during deep, slow-wave sleep produces the most noticeable sleep inertia. Waking during the lighter stages, particularly at the natural end of a 90-minute cycle, produces the least. The brain, like most living things, appreciates the chance to arrive gradually. The relationship between sleep and physical discomfort creates one of the most challenging circles in all of sleep medicine. Discomfort disrupts sleep. Poor sleep lowers the pain threshold, making the body more sensitive and increasing the perception of discomfort. Increased sensitivity makes sleep harder. The cycle is self-reinforcing and, for people living with chronic pain conditions, can feel profoundly difficult to soften, though not beyond reach. Research shows that slow-wave sleep specifically plays a role in pain regulation, and that deprivation of this stage reliably increases pain sensitivity even in otherwise healthy subjects. The path toward relief nearly always begins with addressing sleep quality as a priority in its own right, not simply as a symptom of the discomfort, but as a condition that, when improved, begins to gently lift what the body carries. Dreams occur primarily during REM sleep, but brief dream fragments can occur in other stages as well. The content of REM dreams tends to be narrative and emotionally vivid. Characters, scenes, conversations, and experiences that can feel entirely real in the moment. NREM dreams, when they occur, tend to be more fragmented, static, and conceptual, more like thoughts than stories. The neuroscience of dreaming remains one of the most open questions in science. We know that the dreaming brain activates the visual cortex, the motor system, the emotional centers, and the memory systems simultaneously. We know that the body is temporarily still during REM sleep, a protective mechanism that prevents physical acting out of dream content. Their universality, every human culture that has ever existed has recorded them, suggests that whatever they are doing, it matters. Alcohol is one of the most widespread and least understood disruptors of sleep quality. While alcohol reliably reduces the time it takes to fall asleep, it has a sedating effect that many people use intentionally. It profoundly disrupts sleep architecture in the second half of the night. As alcohol is metabolized, typically between 3 and 5 hours after drinking, it triggers a rebound in alertness. REM sleep is suppressed. Deep, slow-wave sleep is fragmented. The second half of the night becomes lighter, more interrupted, and less restorative. The person who falls asleep easily after drinking may wonder why they wake at 3 in the morning feeling restless and alert. This is not a mystery. It is biochemistry, unfolding quietly and predictably in the hours after the last drink. The borrowed sedation has come due. Exercise is one of the most gentle and effective natural supports for sleep quality. But timing matters. Moderate aerobic exercise, walking, cycling, swimming, consistently improves both sleep quality and total sleep duration in studies across age groups. It increases slow-wave sleep, lowers the resting heart rate, reduces anxiety, and supports the natural decline in body temperature that accompanies healthy sleep onset. However, vigorous exercise within 3 hours of bedtime can delay sleep by raising core body temperature and cortisol, temporarily opposing the very conditions sleep requires. The body needs time to return to its pre-exercise state. For those who find sleep difficult, the gentle suggestion is simply this: give the body a few hours between effort and rest, so that it can make the transition on its own terms. A new generation of research is exploring whether sleep quality can offer a window into future health with remarkable clarity. In late 2025 and early 2026, researchers at Stanford published a study introducing Sleep FM, an artificial intelligence model trained on over 585,000 hours of sleep recordings from approximately 65,000 participants. From a single night of monitored sleep, Sleep FM could accurately predict more than 130 health conditions, including cardiovascular diseases, metabolic conditions, and mental health patterns, with a confidence index above 0.75. The implications are extraordinary. A night of sleep is not merely a period of rest. It is a window into the biological state of an entire body, a nightly readout of the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, and the brain. The night has always known things about us that we did not know ourselves. We are only now learning to listen. You're still here, still with us, drifting through the science of the sleeping mind. Take a slow, gentle breath now. Notice how your body has perhaps settled a little more into where you're resting. How the room feels a little quieter than it did a while ago. We're exploring consciousness itself, the very mind doing the exploring right now. There's no rush, no destination, just the soft pull of curiosity, carrying us gently forward. Let's continue. The prefrontal cortex, the most recently evolved part of the human brain, is among the first regions to soften with sleep loss. The prefrontal cortex handles executive functions, planning, impulse control, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. When sleep is reduced, even by small amounts, activity in this region declines noticeably. Paradoxically, people experiencing this decline often feel relatively fine. Their sense of their own impairment is itself impaired. Studies have found that after several days of sleeping 6 hours per night, performance on cognitive tasks deteriorates to the same degree as staying awake for 24 hours straight, but the subjects report feeling only slightly sleepy. The self that judges how well we are doing is among the things that insufficient sleep quietly touches first. The human body has more than one kind of sleep pressure. Beyond the adenosine-based homeostatic pressure that builds during waking, researchers have identified additional factors that influence the depth and quality of sleep. Thermal pressure, the body's need to cool, is one. Social safety signals, the sense of being protected and not alone, appear to be another. And there are emerging theories around metabolic restoration. The idea that sleep serves as a critical period for renewing cellular energy reserves, particularly in the brain's neurons, which consume enormous amounts of energy during waking activity. Sleep, from this perspective, is not merely rest. It is a fundamental energy allocation strategy, as necessary to the neuron as replenishment is to any living system. Napping, when well timed, can partially compensate for lost nighttime sleep without significantly disrupting the following night. Short naps of 10 to 20 minutes, taken in the early to mid-afternoon, between 1 and 3 in the afternoon, improve alertness, mood, and cognitive performance for most adults without substantially reducing the adenosine buildup needed for nighttime sleep. Longer naps, or naps taken later in the day, begin to encroach on nighttime sleep pressure. The Mediterranean tradition of the afternoon siesta, practiced for centuries across southern Europe and parts of Latin America, may reflect an intuitive accommodation of the body's natural mid-afternoon circadian dip, a gentle biological suggestion that a brief return to rest, when honored, supports rather than undermines the night. Sleep talking and sleepwalking occur during deep slow-wave sleep, not during dreaming. This is one of the most common misconceptions about parasomnias, as these events are called, because the body is in a protective state of stillness during REM sleep. The active, purposeful behaviors associated with sleepwalking cannot occur then. They occur when the brain is partially aroused from the deepest stages of NREM sleep, in a state where some motor systems have awakened while consciousness remains asleep. For most people, these episodes are harmless and temporary, more common in childhood, when slow-wave sleep is more abundant and typically diminishing with age. They are not signs of psychological disturbance. They are the occasional misfirings of a complex system, the seams showing briefly in the architecture of the night. The position in which you sleep may influence the brain's overnight fluid circulation. Research in animal models suggests that sleeping on your side, the lateral position, may support more efficient glymphatic flow compared to sleeping on your back or stomach. The hypothesis, which researchers are still investigating in humans, is that the lateral position may reduce resistance in the brain's perivascular channels, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flow more freely through the tissue. Whether this effect meaningfully influences health outcomes over a lifetime is still being studied, but the possibility is quietly notable. Among the many things your body may know that you do not is perhaps this: the instinct to curl onto your side in the night may be doing something more than offering comfort. It may be letting the river flow. The phenomenon of not being able to fall asleep until very late, often 1, 2, or 3 in the morning, has a clinical name and a biological mechanism. It is called delayed sleep-wake phase disorder, and it represents an extreme version of the evening chronotype. People with this condition have biological clocks that are significantly phase delayed. Their melatonin rises later. Their cortisol peaks later. Their core temperature drops later. From a biological standpoint, their bodies are simply not ready for sleep at conventional hours, historically misunderstood as poor sleep habits. This condition is now recognized as a circadian rhythm disorder with a genuine physiological basis. Light therapy in the morning, bright light exposure within the first hour of waking, is among the most effective gentle interventions for shifting the clock earlier. The body is not being resistant. It is simply running on a different time. The relationship between mental health and sleep runs in every direction, like rivers feeding the same sea. Depression increases the likelihood of insomnia. Insomnia increases the risk of developing depression. Anxiety is among the most common contributors to chronic sleep difficulty. And sleep deprivation reliably produces anxiety-like states, even in people without anxiety disorders. Post-traumatic stress almost universally disrupts sleep, particularly REM sleep, through nightmares and heightened arousal. The connections run through nearly every condition studied. This does not make the picture hopeless. It means that addressing sleep often improves mental health, and addressing mental health often improves sleep. They are not separate puzzles. They are the same puzzle, turned to different angles. 40% of people in the Generation Z cohort report experiencing sleep anxiety at least 3 times per week. Sleep anxiety, specifically, worry about whether one will be able to sleep, has been identified as a growing concern among younger adults. Research published in 2025 points to modern contributors: academic pressure, digital overstimulation, economic uncertainty, and the constant ambient availability of information. The irony is precise. The same devices that connect young people to community and meaning are also among the primary disruptors of the biological conditions for sleep, and the anxiety about sleep itself, the meta-level worry about the inability to rest, becomes its own quiet obstacle. The body trying to sleep while the mind monitors the trying. A tender difficulty, and a very human one. Consistent background sound can improve sleep quality by reducing the effect of environmental noise. The sleeping brain continues to monitor auditory input throughout the night. Sudden sounds, a door closing, a car passing, a change in ambient noise, can trigger brief wakings that the sleeper may not consciously remember, but that interrupt the continuity of sleep stages. Consistent background sound, white noise, pink noise, the sound of rain, ocean waves, or a fan, works by reducing the contrast between ambient silence and sudden sounds, making environmental disturbances less likely to cause these micro-wakings. Pink noise, which contains lower frequencies than pure white noise, has been studied and shows promise in supporting deeper slow-wave sleep in some populations. The night does not require silence. It requires consistency. Halfway through our journey tonight, a quiet truth is emerging. Sleep is not simply a destination you fail to reach or succeed in reaching. It is a biological relationship between your body and the night, between your nervous system and the conditions it needs to feel safe enough to let go. The science shows us that almost every instance of struggling to sleep has a mechanism behind it, a reason rooted not in personal failure but in physiology, in timing, in chemistry, in the way a nervous system has learned to respond to the world. Understanding those mechanisms does not instantly resolve them, but it changes the conversation we have with ourselves in the dark. And sometimes that is where the healing begins. Let each breath remind you that this moment, only this moment, is yours. While the world outside continues its turning, its noise, its urgency. This second, this breath, this soft darkness is yours alone. You don't need to be anywhere else tonight. You don't need to do anything else tonight. Imagine yourself floating on still water. The surface holds you without effort. Below, the depths are quiet and deep, and we continue drifting. Sleep deprivation affects every major organ system in the human body. The cardiovascular system. Blood pressure tends to rise when sleep is habitually short, because sleep is a period of sustained parasympathetic activity. When the heart rate slows and the arteries rest, the metabolic system. Sleep loss alters insulin sensitivity and appetite-regulating hormones. The reproductive system. Testosterone and other hormones essential to reproductive health are produced primarily during sleep. Even skin and tissue repair follow sleep-dependent rhythms. The night is not simply rest. It is maintenance across every dimension of a living body. A quiet, ongoing act of care that the body performs for itself. Every single night. Neuroimaging studies have found that extended periods of sleep deprivation are associated with subtle changes in the fluid balance and structure of certain brain regions. These changes appear to reverse with recovery sleep. Whether they reflect cellular dehydration, metabolic accumulation, or a combination of factors is still being studied. But the brain's responsiveness to what happens during the night, or does not happen, is becoming measurably clear. The sleeping brain is not the same as the waking brain. Something is restored. Something is returned. And while we do not yet have a complete picture of every mechanism, the direction of the evidence is consistent. Rest changes the brain, and the change is gentle, and the change is good. There is no universal amount of sleep that is right for every person. The often cited recommendation of 8 hours per night is an average, derived from population studies, not a prescription that applies equally to every individual. Genetic research has identified a small subset of people, perhaps 1 to 3% of the population, who function well on 6 hours or less, due to variants in specific genes that alter sleep efficiency. For most people, 7 to 9 hours represents the natural range. But within that range, individual variation is genuine and biologically based. The person who feels best on 7 hours is not cutting corners. And the person who genuinely needs 9 is not being indulgent. The body has its own requirements, and they deserve to be listened to. The brain during REM sleep generates its own internal reality. The visual cortex is nearly as active during dreaming as during visual experience while awake. The motor cortex generates movement commands, which the brainstem's protective stillness of REM then quietly blocks before they reach the muscles. The emotional centers are highly active. The memory systems are running, and the prefrontal cortex, the part that reality tests, that knows a dream, is relatively quiet. This is why dreams feel real while we are in them. The neural signature of reality is there. Only the anchor to waking life is gently loosened. The sleeping brain is not malfunctioning. It is doing something we do not yet fully understand, something that has existed as long as there have been creatures complex enough to sleep. Chronic insomnia affects approximately 10% of adults globally, but estimates of sleep insufficiency reach much higher. According to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 1/3 of American adults report regularly getting less than the recommended amount of sleep. Global estimates suggest that populations in industrialized nations have seen a meaningful reduction in average sleep duration over the past century, driven by artificial light, work demands, digital technology, and cultural narratives that frame busyness and sleeplessness as markers of dedication. The science quietly, consistently tells a different story. What the data shows, across hundreds of studies, is that sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity, as fundamental as food or water. The glymphatic system was discovered less than 15 years ago, and it has already reshaped our understanding of why we sleep. Before its identification, in 2012, the brain was one of the only organs without a known dedicated waste clearance system, a puzzle that had long intrigued neuroscientists. Given how metabolically active the brain is, the discovery of the glymphatic network, the brain's perivascular channels through which cerebrospinal fluid moves during sleep to remove waste, provided a compelling answer to one of the oldest questions in biology. Why does an animal risk the vulnerability of sleep at all? The answer may be, in part, because the brain cannot fully clean itself while it is awake. The channels work best when the organ is still. Stillness is not inactivity. Stillness is the work. The sleeping brain consolidates not only facts and events, but motor skills. Studies of musicians, athletes, and students learning new physical skills have consistently shown that sleep, and specifically slow wave and REM sleep, is critical to the consolidation of procedural memory. A musician who practices a difficult passage will play it more fluidly after a night's sleep than immediately after the final practice session. The brain takes the rough draft of a new skill and, in the night hours, refines it, smoothing out the neural pathways, quieting the inefficiencies, letting the learning settle into something more fluid and natural. The night is not a pause in the learning. It is where the learning becomes permanent. Certain sounds, when precisely timed to occur during deep sleep, may deepen the quality of slow-wave sleep. Research into acoustic slow-wave enhancement, delivering carefully timed low-frequency sound pulses in synchrony with the brain's natural oscillations during NREM sleep, has shown that this technique can deepen slow-wave sleep and support memory consolidation in some studies. The brain's slow oscillations during deep sleep have a natural rhythm, roughly 1 per second. Auditory stimuli delivered in synchrony with these oscillations appear to gently amplify them, like softly pushing a child on a swing at just the right moment. Researchers believe this finding may eventually support non-pharmacological sleep interventions for people whose deep sleep has been diminished by aging or illness. The experience of time softens in the hours before a good night's sleep, in the minutes and hours before the brain fully releases into sleep, in that gentle dissolving between wakefulness and the first stage of NREM. Many people notice that their perception of time seems to change. Moments seem longer. Thoughts seem more fluid. The edges of the day blur and soften. Whatever its precise mechanism, that softening of time is something the body offers freely, every night, to anyone willing to lie still long enough to receive it. The science of sleep reveals something that philosophy has always suspected. Consciousness is not a single, unbroken stream. Across a night of sleep, we cross between different forms of awareness multiple times. We are awake, then drowsy, then asleep, then in deep dreamless rest, then in vivid dreaming, then lighter again. Each state has its own distinctive electrical signature, its own neurochemistry, its own relationship to time and self. The waking self that you are right now is one point in a larger cycle. Sleep is not the absence of consciousness. It is another form of it, one that does not require a witness, one that asks nothing of you, one that has been part of what you are since before you knew yourself. You have been here before, and you will return again tonight. It is not unfamiliar. It is home, the default mode network, the brain's self-referential system, active during mind-wandering and rumination, is connected to insomnia. Research using functional brain imaging has shown that people with chronic insomnia have measurably different activity patterns in the default mode network compared to good sleepers, both during wakefulness and during sleep itself. The network remains more active, more self-focused, more engaged in inner narration and self-monitoring. This persists even during sleep, contributing to lighter, more fragmented sleep architecture. The mind that cannot stop talking to itself during the day does not automatically quiet when the lights go out. The conversation continues, in slightly different forms, through the night. One of the gentlest interventions is simply giving the mind something else to attend to. Something soft, something external, something that requires just enough attention to occupy the narrating voice. Body scan meditation, practiced before sleep, has been shown to reduce the physiological markers of hyperarousal. In controlled studies, progressive muscle relaxation and body scan techniques, where attention is systematically directed to each part of the body in turn, noticing sensation without judgment, produced measurable reductions in heart rate, cortisol levels, and subjective anxiety in people with insomnia. The mechanism is thought to involve the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest branch that gently opposes the fight or flight arousal system. By directing attention to bodily sensation rather than thoughts, the technique reduces activity in the prefrontal cortex's monitoring mode and activates a more receptive, grounded mode of awareness. It is not magic. It is neurological, and it is available to anyone, anywhere, in the space of 15 quiet minutes. Sleep is the time when the body produces the majority of its daily growth hormone, human growth hormone, which plays a critical role not only in childhood development, but in adult tissue repair, muscle maintenance, immune function, and metabolism. Is released in pulses primarily during deep, slow-wave sleep, particularly in the first half of the night. This is why sleep is so supportive of physical recovery, and why chronically poor sleep makes the body's capacity to rebuild and restore more difficult. The relationship between sleep and physical restoration is not metaphorical. It is hormonal. The night is when the body does the work of becoming more resilient. Rest is not the absence of effort. It is effort turned inward. Writing briefly about gratitude before bed has been linked to improved sleep onset and sleep quality in multiple studies. Noting 3 to 5 things one feels thankful for, described in specific rather than general terms, appears to reduce pre-sleep mental activity and shorten the time it takes to fall asleep. Researchers suggest that the practice shifts the content of pre-sleep thoughts away from worry and toward positive and resolved mental representations. The brain preparing for sleep benefits from having recently visited some version of completion and safety. Gratitude, however small, may offer the nervous system a signal that the day had some goodness in it, and that it is, therefore, safe to close. The question of why we struggle to sleep is, at its deepest level, a question about what the nervous system believes about safety. We have learned about adenosine and cortisol, about circadian rhythms and glymphatic clearance, about hyperarousal and cognitive loops. But beneath all the mechanisms, the same condition keeps appearing. Sleep requires a nervous system willing to relinquish vigilance, and a nervous system that has been shaped by stress, by the accumulated weight of difficult experience, by a world that rewards alertness and rarely permits rest, may have genuinely learned that the cost of letting go feels too high. The science of insomnia is also, in a quiet way, the science of safety, of belonging, of trust, of the deep, wordless sense that the night will hold what the self releases. And that sense, like sleep itself, cannot be forced. It can only be gently invited. Even a single night of poor sleep can be detected in the brain's white matter, the network of connections between neural regions. Neuroimaging studies have found transient changes in white matter integrity following acute sleep deprivation, reflecting altered fluid balance and connectivity in the brain's communication pathways. These changes reverse with recovery sleep. However, long-term, chronic sleep insufficiency has been associated with more persistent structural differences in white matter density in some populations. The brain is not static. It is responsive to what happens to it, and what happens during sleep, or does not, leaves traces that accumulate quietly over time. The night shapes the architecture of the mind, gently, persistently, across a lifetime. Insomnia disproportionately affects women. Epidemiological studies consistently find that women are approximately 40% more likely to experience insomnia than men. The reasons are multiple and interacting. Hormonal fluctuations across the menstrual cycle, during pregnancy, and at perimenopause and menopause significantly affect sleep architecture. The higher prevalence of anxiety and depression in women, both strongly connected to insomnia, is a contributing factor. Caregiving responsibilities, which still fall disproportionately on women in most societies, reduce total sleep time and fragment it with responsibilities. Whatever the full picture, this disparity reflects a real and significant dimension of human experience that deserves acknowledgement, research, and care. The sleep of a grieving person is different from the sleep of a rested one. Studies of people in acute grief show profound disruptions to sleep architecture, increased nighttime wakings, reduced REM sleep, altered slow-wave activity, and heightened physiological arousal. Some researchers have proposed that grief and insomnia share underlying neurobiological features, including activation of the HPA axis and elevated inflammatory markers. There is something in this research that feels important not to hurry past. The hours between 3 and 5 in the morning can feel like a particular kind of territory for those who are mourning, and the science does not rush them through it. Loss is processed, in part, in the dark. The body knows this even when the mind resists it. The word insomnia comes from the Latin, meaning simply, no sleep. But the lived experience of insomnia is rarely the complete absence of sleep. More commonly, it is a disturbance in the quality of sleep, difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, or waking too early and being unable to return. The clinical definition of insomnia disorder requires not only these disturbances, but also daytime difficulty, fatigue, mood changes, cognitive difficulty. Many people experience significant sleep disturbance without seeking support, attributing it to personal weakness or accepting it as inevitable. The science gently offers a different view. Effective, non-pharmacological approaches exist. The condition is real. The experience is not imagined. And support, if wanted, is available. The brain's systems for managing discomfort are partially dependent on adequate sleep. During deep NREM sleep, the brain reduces its sensitivity to pain signaling inputs through a combination of reduced thalamic activity and the release of endogenous analgesic substances. People whose sleep has been reduced show consistently lower thresholds for discomfort in laboratory conditions. Recent research has also found that the glymphatic system may play a role in clearing inflammatory substances from brain tissue during sleep, reducing neuroinflammation that can contribute to central sensitivity. The body that cannot sleep does not simply tire. It begins to ache in ways it did not ache when it could rest. Sleep and comfort are not separate. They are part of the same gentle system. Yoga Nidra, a guided meditation practice, sometimes called yogic sleep, has been shown to alter brainwave activity toward theta and delta states without full sleep. Practiced for thousands of years in Indian traditions and now studied in contemporary neuroscience, Yoga Nidra involves lying completely still while following a systematic guided relaxation through a series of body, breath, and visualization techniques. EEG studies have found that during Yoga Nidra, practitioners enter and sustain theta and occasionally delta brainwave states, the same frequencies associated with deep relaxation and the early stages of sleep. The practice does not replace sleep, but for those who find it difficult to cross the threshold into it, Yoga Nidra offers a pathway toward the brain states that precede and invite it. A bridge, built from attention and breath, toward the country of the night. The natural world offers its own quiet model of sleep diversity. Dolphins and other cetaceans practice unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, resting one hemisphere of the brain at a time while the other remains gently alert. Migratory birds can enter brief sleep states during flight, navigating by starlight while resting portions of their neural systems. Elephant seals sleep in brief bursts during deep dives. Sleep, across the animal kingdom, is not one thing. It adapts itself to the demands of every life. The universal need to rest takes as many shapes as there are creatures who need it. And in every shape, the same basic truth holds. Rest is not optional. It is what living things do. The concept of first sleep and second sleep, two separate periods of sleep with a quiet waking interval in the middle, was the common pattern for much of human history before artificial light. Historical records, diaries, medical texts, and literary references from medieval and early modern Europe consistently describe people sleeping for a few hours, waking in the middle of the night for 1 to 2 hours of calm wakefulness. Prayer, conversation, quiet, reflection, and then returning to sleep for a second period until morning. Historian A. Roger Eckersch documented this extensively, suggesting it was the dominant sleep pattern in pre-industrial societies. The invention of artificial lighting compressed sleep into a single consolidated period. The gentle disquiet some people feel about waking in the middle of the night may, in part, reflect a biological norm that has been culturally suppressed, rather than a disorder to be corrected. A night of sleep affects how you perceive other people's faces the following day. Studies have shown that sleep deprivation reduces the brain's ability to accurately read positive social emotions in faces. Joy, enthusiasm, warmth, while leaving the detection of cautious expressions relatively intact. The sleep-reduced brain is, in effect, tuned toward caution and less available to connection. This asymmetry has observable consequences for how sleep-reduced people experience social interactions. Missing cues of friendliness, feeling more socially isolated, and social isolation, as we have noted, is itself connected to poor sleep. To sleep better is, among other things, to see the world with more generous eyes, to meet the faces around you with the full, open attention they deserve. And so we arrive at something the science has been quietly building toward. Sleep is not a problem to be solved. It is a relationship to be tended. The reasons we struggle with it are real, physiological, psychological, environmental, historical, and social. They are not signs of weakness. They are signs of complexity, of a nervous system shaped by everything that has ever happened to it, doing its best to navigate a world it was not entirely designed for. The path toward better sleep is not one dramatic intervention. It is the slow, gentle accumulation of conditions: darkness, coolness, consistency, safety, the quieting of the alarm, the permission to let go, that allow a nervous system to finally believe what is true, that the night is safe, and the rest is deserved. You might be feeling tired now. That's perfectly fine. Breathe slowly. Feel the cycles. Your breath rises and falls. Your heart beats and rests. Your brain moves between alertness and peace, between waking and sleep, like tides, like seasons, like the slow turning of the earth that carries you from day into night. You are also part of that eternal rhythm. You don't need to hold on to anything now. Let everything unfold in its perfect order, like the body entering sleep, not pushed, not forced, simply allowed. We're almost there now. The brain's slow oscillations during deep sleep are among the most synchronized electrical events in all of neuroscience. During deep NREM sleep, large populations of neurons fire in broad, sweeping waves, roughly 1 per second, that move across the cortex like a tide. These slow oscillations coordinate the transfer of information from short-term to long-term memory. They provide the rhythmic backbone against which other sleep processes synchronize. Not the fireworks of waking thought, but the long, steady pulse of the sleeping tide. Quiet, immense, essential. Sleep restores moral reasoning. Studies have found that sleep deprivation reduces the brain's engagement with complex moral judgment. The nuanced, context-sensitive reasoning that considers other people's perspectives. Sleep-reduced subjects make harsher, more rigid judgments. They find it harder to access empathy. The prefrontal cortex, quieted by insufficient rest, cannot perform the careful balancing act that good moral reasoning requires. To sleep is, among other things, to become a more compassionate version of oneself. The well-rested person is more able to see other people clearly and to respond to them with the full care they deserve. Breathing affects sleep, and sleep affects breathing. The soft, regular breathing of deep sleep is not simply a byproduct of unconsciousness. It is actively regulated by the brainstem's respiratory centers, which slow breathing rate and deepen each breath as the body descends into deeper stages. Conversely, slow, diaphragmatic breathing activates the vagus nerve and supports the transition into sleep. The breath is a bridge, accessible at any moment, available in the dark, one of the few physiological systems that you can choose to attend to, and that will attend to you in return. Even the act of simply lying still with eyes closed, without sleeping, provides some restoration. Rest without sleep reduces certain markers of fatigue and allows some degree of mental quieting. Even without the full restorative benefits of actual sleep, for people who lie awake in the night worried about not sleeping, this is a gentle piece of news. The body in repose is doing something, not nothing. The rest is not wasted, even when sleep does not come. Knowing this can sometimes soften the worry enough to let sleep arrive of its own accord. Not pursued, but simply invited. Sleep medicine has developed one of the most effective non-pharmacological approaches in all of modern healthcare. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBT, typically involves 6 to 8 structured sessions addressing sleep restriction, stimulus control, thought patterns, and sleep habits. Across dozens of randomized controlled trials, CBTI has been shown to outperform sleep medications in long-term benefit, with meaningful improvements in the majority of participants. And unlike medications, its benefits tend to persist and even deepen after treatment ends. It teaches not just behaviors, but a different relationship with sleep, one based on understanding and trust rather than effort and control. The most effective sleep support we currently have is, in the end, the gentle relearning of how to rest. The sleeping body produces less urine than the waking body. The kidneys receive signals during sleep that reduce urine production, allowing most people to sleep through the night without waking. This suppression is coordinated partly by antidiuretic hormone, whose secretion increases during sleep. As people age, this nocturnal suppression becomes less consistent, which is one reason why waking during the night becomes more common with age. Understanding that the body has mechanisms designed to protect sleep continuity can be a quiet reminder that the night is arranged, in many small ways, to support rest. The deepest sleep of the night typically occurs in the first 2 sleep cycles. In the first 90 minutes of sleep, most people spend the greatest proportion of their time in slow-wave deep sleep, when growth hormone is released, when lymphatic clearance is most active, when the immune system does significant work. By the morning hours, slow-wave sleep is largely complete, and the cycles are rich with REM. This architecture means that the early hours of the night are, in some senses, the most physically restorative. The body tends toward its deepest restoration first, as if it knows exactly where to begin. The heart slows during sleep. Heart rate decreases noticeably during NREM sleep by 10 to 20 beats per minute in many people, and the heart spends more time in the lower range of its natural variability. This period of reduced cardiovascular activity is believed to be protective. Research consistently links short sleep duration and poor sleep quality with elevated risk of cardiovascular conditions over time. The sleeping heart is not merely resting. It is recovering, resetting the pressures and patterns of the day. The night is kind to the heart, if we give it the chance to be. Children who sleep enough are more emotionally regulated than children who do not. Research across pediatric populations consistently shows that sleep duration and quality are among the strongest predictors of emotional regulation in children. Well-rested children are better able to manage frustration, to persist through difficulty, to regulate impulse and emotion. They show less anxiety. They have better memory and learning outcomes, and they are more attuned to other children. The biology of childhood emotional development is partly a story about sleep. In those quiet hours, the young brain consolidates not only what it has learned, but who it is learning to be. There is a quiet bravery in lying down. For many people, the moment of getting into bed at night is the moment the defenses come down, when the busyness that keeps difficult feelings at bay falls quiet, and what is unresolved rises gently to the surface. This is not pathological. It is human. The night asks for a vulnerability that the day can more easily avoid. In that way, the struggle with sleep is sometimes the surface of a deeper invitation to make peace with the day, to lay down what is carried, to trust that the self will still be there in the morning. The presence of a calm, trusted companion in the same room can support sleep. Research on co-regulation and social modulation of the autonomic nervous system has found that proximity to a calm, trusted person, even without touch or speech, can reduce heart rate and lower cortisol in a sleeping person. The autonomic nervous system, scanning quietly for social safety cues, receives something from the presence of another that it cannot fully provide for itself. Not all people sleep best with others, and many rest most deeply alone. But the finding speaks to something important about the conditions under which the human nervous system was designed to rest. Accompanied, held, known. Darkness matters as much as sleep timing for the biology of rest. Even dim light during sleep, from a hallway light under a door, or a charging indicator on a device, has been shown in recent studies to reduce the depth of slow-wave sleep and alter next morning cortisol and heart rate. Light-sensing cells in the eye continue to send information to the suprachiasmatic nucleus even during sleep, influencing the biological clock and the hormonal environment of the sleeping body. Blackout curtains. An eye mask. Removing glowing devices from the room. These are not small gestures. They are a restoration of a condition the body has always needed and has never stopped quietly expecting. The words we use to talk about sleep shape how we feel about it. People who describe themselves as hopeless sleepers, who say they never sleep, are using language that both reflects and reinforces a particular relationship with rest. Small shifts toward curiosity, toward permission, toward noting that sleep is sometimes difficult rather than impossible, are not merely semantics. They are small neurological reorientations. The way we describe the night affects the way the nervous system approaches it. And the nervous system, it turns out, is listening. Your resting body right now is doing more than resting. Even in quiet wakefulness, as you listen to these words and allow the weight of the evening to settle into you, the autonomic nervous system is managing your blood pressure, your body temperature, your hormone levels, your breathing rhythm. Your immune cells are patrolling. Your neurons are processing the quiet impressions of the day. Your heart is finding its slower rhythm. There is an immense and intricate process occurring in your body right now, without your direction, without your effort. You do not need to do anything. The body already knows. It has always known. The only thing asked of you tonight is the willingness to stop standing in the way. So why do you struggle to sleep? The science has offered its answer, gently, across everything we have explored tonight. Because your nervous system has learned to keep watch in ways that served it once, and perhaps serve it still in some moments, but that no longer serve the night. Because adenosine and melatonin and cortisol and temperature all have to align at exactly the right moment. And sometimes the conditions we live in make that alignment harder to find. And yet here, in the quiet, a different possibility opens. Not a solution, but an easing. Not a fix, but a softening. The mechanisms exist. The pathways are real. The nervous system that learned to be vigilant can, slowly and with patience, learn something else, that the night is safe, that the rest is real, that it was always here, waiting. The quietest moments of the night are not empty. Between the cycles of sleep, in the brief, soft wakings that nearly everyone experiences without remembering, there are a few seconds of ambient awareness, a sense of the darkness, the weight of the body, the sound of the room. These moments pass without trace for most people, stitching the night together into something that feels continuous. They are part of the normal architecture of sleep, not interruptions to it. The night is not a single long breath. It is many small breaths, resting together, each one releasing a little more than the last. You are always closer to the deep than you know. The body's autonomic nervous system is like a tide. It moves between arousal and rest, and the further it has moved in one direction, the further it will eventually move in the other. A day of genuine presence, of concentration, of care, of real engagement, creates the conditions for deeper rest. The evenings that feel most peaceful and the nights that feel deepest are often those that follow days of genuine inhabitation. This does not mean that exhaustion produces good sleep. It does not. But there is something in the relationship between the quality of one's waking life and the quality of the rest that follows. Meeting the day fully helps the tide return. Dreams may serve as a kind of quiet rehearsal for the experiences of a life still being lived. One prominent theory of REM sleep proposes that dreaming evolved as a simulation system, a way for the sleeping brain to explore scenarios in a safe environment, without the real-world consequences of experiencing them while awake. More recent research suggests that dreams rehearse a broader range of emotionally significant experiences: social interactions, creative problems, anticipated futures. The dreaming mind, freed from the constraints of sequential logic, explores possibilities that waking thought might dismiss. The vivid, strange, emotionally charged world of the dream is, in this view, preparation, a generous rehearsal for a life still unfolding. The simple act of waking at a consistent time each morning is one of the most effective anchors for a disrupted circadian rhythm, more even than consistent bedtime, which the body's arousal patterns can make harder to enforce. Consistent wake time provides the biological clock with a reliable morning reset. The morning cortisol surge, the light exposure, the first meal of the day. These anchors, occurring at the same time each morning, reinforce the circadian signal, even on weekends, even after a late night. The consistency of the morning creates the conditions for the naturalness of the evening. The light at dawn is the beginning of the path back to the night. And here, at the edge of the journey, is perhaps the simplest thing the science of sleep has to offer. You deserve to rest. Not because you have earned it today. Not because tomorrow requires you to be sharp and capable. Not because the body has some transaction to complete before the night will receive it. But because rest is what living things do. Because the night is part of your nature, not a suspension of it. Because the same quiet forces that shape the tides and the seasons and every sleeping creature that has ever drawn breath shaped you too. With all your complexity, all your unfinished thoughts, all your tender, tired humanity, made you to sleep, made the night to hold you. That is enough. That has always been enough. And so, our quiet journey through the science of sleep draws to a gentle close. We have traveled from the paired cluster of 10,000 neurons that keeps your biological clock to the ancient chemical called adenosine that builds your need for rest with each passing hour. We have passed through the glymphatic rivers that clean the sleeping brain, and the cortisol rhythms that should light your mornings and soften your nights. We have visited the dreaming mind, the grieving mind, the watchful mind that cannot let go. We have touched the evolutionary roots of sleep, the hormonal architecture of the night, and the quiet willingness it takes to lie down and trust the dark. Throughout all of it, a single thread has remained. Sleep is not your adversary. It is the part of you that is most ancient, most patient, and most generous. It has been waiting for you every night of your life. It is waiting for you now. Sleep reminds us that surrender is not weakness, that some of the most important things the body does happen in the absence of effort and the presence of trust. Much of the night's work, the cleaning, the repairing, the reprocessing, the consolidating, happens precisely in the space that the waking mind vacates. By pausing to understand this, we glimpse something the body has always known: that rest and effort are not opposites, that the night and the day are one continuous arc, each making the other possible. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about unity of every process, every cycle, every rhythm in the body, all of them. running together in the quiet dark. You are not separate from the night. You are part of it. Think about the mind in sleep, yours, and the minds of everyone listening right now in their own quiet rooms, in every place where darkness has arrived. All of them releasing the day, all of them crossing the same gentle threshold. You are not alone in the darkness. Let your entire being soften into this understanding. Let the boundary between yourself and the stillness dissolve. Breathe once more, slowly, completely. Prepare for deep sleep. No urgency left. No borders. Only peace. Only rest. Only the quiet that has been here, waiting for you, all along. If this thoughtful exploration of the sleeping mind helped you relax, or feel a little less alone in the dark tonight, a gentle like or subscribe helps other tired minds discover this peaceful space. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, through the science of what the night asks of the body, and what the body asks of the night. You can allow these thoughts of sleep and waking, of adenosine and cortisol, and the soft, patient rhythms of the brain, to fade now, like the last light of a long and quiet evening, leaving only the warmth of the dark behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if the very earth beneath you has exhaled and drawn you gently downward. If sleep comes, let it carry you, smoothly, inevitably, into the place beyond thought where the body does its best and gentlest work. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again. Cortisol will surge. The clock inside your brain will reset with the light. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul. And remember, the night has always been on your side. You were only ever learning to trust it. Fall asleep to gentle science. Dream deeper with bedtime facts. Science whispers for your deep sleep. Good night.